Almost all seats in the economic team occupied, save for the budget department. How is the business community viewing this roster of Marcos Jr.?
Well, as you know, the first 2 weeks after the president-elect was elected, there were some jitters that no names were coming out, and there were all these reports from so-called credible sources about who was being considered, and we had to remind others and sometimes ourselves that it was not critical yet that he needed to announce names within the first 2 weeks. And in fact, last week, as you mentioned, we got a slew of announcements. Almost all of the top economic team had been named. And we, as well as other business groups, all welcomed these appointments of experienced and well-known people, which is very important at this time, Justin.
Okay, we're talking also about names that have served in previous administrations from way back, even during the Estrada administration. Does that, to you, at least signal policy continuity? And at the same time, how does that boost the confidence here of the private sector?
A couple of things. One reason why these appointments were welcome is because they were experienced and well-known. We know where they're coming from. We know the policies that they have espoused in the past. It tends to be very much pro-competitiveness and also pro-inclusivity. And those are the kinds of policies that we think are very important to create the jobs that we need, which is really job number one. And if you allow me, Jester, just to talk about how important this all is right now, more than previously, it's really essential now that the private sector and the government work together to create these jobs. You know how, and your viewers know how weakened the economy has been after COVID, how our finances have been depleted, how commodities are rising, inflation is rising, and borrowing getting more expensive. This government that's coming in doesn't have the runway that the current government and some previous governments had, which had a great global environment to function in, and also a lot of money in the bank. This government could use the help, and the private sector is very willing to help, of course, could use the help of the private sector to invest in order to create those jobs. We're very glad, for example, when incoming NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan last week said he was looking forward to reviving PPPs, or public-private partnerships. As your audience knows, this is a project where the government, the private sector rather, puts up the money and takes on some of the risks so that the government can use its money on other important matters.
Let's zoom out a bit here, Coco, and you see, a major issue here that the economic team has to handle has, of course, settling our pandemic-induced debt. And on that note, you have the current finance department already recommending a consolidated financial plan. Your thoughts on that? Is it high time for us to raise or expand our taxes? You have, on the other hand, incoming DOF Secretary Jokno saying that he would at least first seek the assurance from both houses of Congress before pushing forward with this plan.
I think we all saw those slides. There were 4 or 5 slides, lots of proposals there. I can't claim that we've studied each and every one of those. We all know that we need to raise money to pay for that debt, and some of these choices will have to be made. Jester, Danny, I can't now say which of those we would be supportive of or not. We know that it's a lot of discussion. What we look forward to is a lot more talk between the government and the private sector about policies such as these, in order that we get the changes necessary in time. The current administration passed 2 tax reform bills over 6 years. The first one passed in a year, the second one took almost 3 years to pass. We hope that if we talk more with each other, that these adjustments that need to be made will happen faster, because we will all be invested in them from the beginning.